Good afternoon. My name is Aileen Cassinetto, and it is my honor and great pleasure to welcome you all to the Bay Area Poets Laureate Public Poetry Reading. I wish to thank the San Mateo County Arts Commission and the San Mateo County Libraries for sponsoring today's event.
Yay!
We are very fortunate to live in a county where the arts are highly valued, and as a poet in San Mateo County, I am especially grateful for the support of our local officials.
That's right.
And now to say a few words, please welcome the Honorable Warren Slocum, Vice President of the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors, as well as co-founder of the San Mateo County Poet Laureate Program.
Yeah.
I've ever seen a better looking, more intelligent, more well-read, creative group than you all. I gotta tell you that when President Groom and I, many years ago, started talking, and we didn't talk that long about starting the Poet Laureate program. I never had an idea that it would turn out the way it's turned out. And I just want to thank you all for coming to San Mateo County, welcome you to San Mateo County, home of many great things. Facebook, I don't know if you consider that great, but Facebook, Oracle, Instagram, YouTube, and now the very #1 Seth Curry from the Ward.
That's right.
In any case, this poet thing has really become glamorous. You know what I'm talking about? We have count them, three San Mateo County previous poet laureates here, right?
Yep.
So if they could stand up.
There you go. That's it.
I never knew them when they were poet laureates as being necessarily really glamorous kind of show business Hollywood people. But I walked into the library. Now I don't know who did this flyer, but I'm telling you, you guys are looking good. I also want to thank you for this really lovely book. I haven't had a chance to go through each page of it, but I should introduce my wife, who was actually talking to me about this book. I'm sorry.
Right.
Let me introduce to you my wife, who's also a Redwood City School Board trustee and has been for like 12 years, has worked. You all are going to love this. She works as a librarian at the Fair Oaks Library, loves poetry, supports kids, does a great deal for that community in terms of programs. I'm very proud of her. Maria Diaz.
She keeps you straight.
Thank you for the gift. That's very kind of you. I just want to thank the poet laureates who worked on this program and getting you all here to San Mateo County. I wasn't involved in the advanced planning at all, which I'm thankful for. Thank you. But you all, I mean, you did just a marvelous job. This is such a creative idea, and you're just doing a really great job, as our other poet laureates have done. And I know you want to thank somebody who helped you put it on. Are you pointing that way for a reason, or do you want me to go to the door? Or?
That would be going.
Anyway, just want to thank you all for being here and how important this program and this Poet Laureate program is to San Mateo County and to the Board of Supervisors. It's just not Carol and I, but I think all 5 of us share a love of poetry. I think a couple of times I've actually read poetry to the board before we had the commission. And I remember I read one of my favorite guys in terms of just kind of funny is, what's his name?
Billy Powell's.
Yeah, Billy Collins, that's it. Billy Collins in a poem about the lanyard poem.
Yeah.
Talking about his mom is like, thank you, Mom, for this, and thank you, Mom, for that. You gave life to me, and I gave you a lanyard. I made a camp. Anyway, I love Billy Collins. But anyway, and then since then, of course, Carolyn and the other poet laureates that followed have been before the board, I think quarterly, if I'm not mistaken, to do poetry. And it's just been an awesome experience. So thank you all, poet laureates in San Mateo County. It's appreciated. I did get a couple of challenges while I was standing in the back there. I'm not going to mention any names, but the poet laureate from East Palo Alto suggested that we only have 4 cities in San Mateo County that have poet laureates. And we need more, so I'm going to go to work on that project. And the other project I'm going to work on, unfortunately, I have a flyer back there, but the first Native American?
Yes.
Yeah. Poet,
United States.
The United States is coming to San Francisco, and we're going to try to, right?
That's
We're
right.
going to try to get her down here.
There you go.
Supervisor Bruno, president of our board, who's an amazing leader. I've come to know these past 6 years, sponsors a disaster day every year, and today is the day. This is our disaster day, and it's a huge event at the fairgrounds, and that's why she's not here, okay? But we do appreciate her and recognize her for her leadership. So I'm going to turn this back over to somebody.
Somebody who's
Who's going to come here and take this mic from me? Now, are these my glasses?
okay.
Okay, thank you all.
So it's my pleasure to introduce the readers. We're going to have the city laureates reading first, followed by the county laureates. And in the interest of time, because there are so many of us, we'll leave it to you each to look on the websites and read the biographies of each of the poets. And I will just read their name and their region. First we have Connie Post of Livermore.
So first I wanted to say thanks to everybody who made this come together. The list is long. And just to give a quick shout out to Livermore, there's 3 Livermore poet laureates here. My previous, Kevin's previous, and then Cynthia Patton's the current. So 3 for 3. And then I'm having a new book come out called Prime Meridian. I know it's kind of far back there. In January, so I'm just going to read a couple of poems from Prime Meridian. And I'll just read the title poem. Prime Meridian. Step upon the earth as if it is melting. Fold the continents as if the borders were already singed at the edges. Hold a container and let all of the oceans run inside of it. Drink the salt until it's all that is left of us. Succumb to the talons of the last orphaned eagle. Let it pull you up by your shirt collar and sail you across the life you were supposed to have. Look down and watch the glaciers fall, the oceans rise, the inlets of every river drown inside themselves. Listen for the sound of your own voice falling backwards. Listen for the sound of the ocean turning itself under, as if the earth were a womb and you the child passing through. And this next one is about this. Thank you. It's a short one called Deboning a Fish. I wonder what the fish saw in my father before he gutted them, before they were they relieved to know they'd soon be out of misery, relieved to stop the gasping for air, to cease the futile flailing around the countertop. Did they wait within themselves and pray for the long knife? Did they remember the lake, its muddy bottom, knowing they can never return? You can tell me, and I already know that fish don't understand these kinds of things, but neither does a small child. At some point, don't we all beg for mercy? One of my hopeful poems, but we have this black squirrel in the yard for a long time, and this is about my complicated relationship with the black squirrel. Omen. For 3 years, the black squirrel visits our backyard. I say I hate it. I say it doesn't look right. I read in science magazines that it's a mutation, a normal occurrence in nature. But every day I think it is a bad omen. Every day I encourage the dogs to run after him. I watch his whirling, curling descent up the tree. I find horizontal relief as he moves away from me into the next yard. Winter passes through me. A close friend my age dies of a brain tumor. I do not wear black to the wedding, to the funeral. Later that week, I step outside in mid-afternoon and see the black squirrel sitting quietly behind our pond. Our eyes meet, and for that split second, I see how I have banished the secret body within the body. I see his small heart beating, and how sorrow fills a cavern and keeps beating. I want to briefly say, I'm really sorry for this. We have the wedding and open in about an hour. I hate doing read and run, but we have to go to the wedding. So I really appreciate you guys listening. I'm sorry we have to leave a little bit early. Thank you again.
I too want to thank all those people who put this event together. It was a great day. First poem I'm going to read is about my wife. It's called Speedway. She is the Danica Patrick of the spoken word. She can circumnavigate a conversation like a race car driver, steering between the syllables that drive the dialogue. She speeds through segues, fails to slow down at crosswalks of comprehension. She accelerates into every twist and turn of consideration and concern, clocking speeds of 200 words per minute. She maximizes mileage between breaths. Oral octane powers her high-velocity vernacular as she downshifts her discourse, spins donuts around my attention span, and loses me at the corner of, who is Marilyn and what in the hell are you talking about? This next poem is called The Mathematics of Pets. My wife brought home a stray dog and asked me if we could keep him. I never wanted a pet. I didn't want the added responsibility. I felt it would take away time from what I wanted to do, make it harder for me to travel, lessen the spontaneity in my life. To me, it was a matter of simple division and subtraction. It took a couple of weeks before I noticed the emergence of a new equation. The pleasure of Hank's companionship became a welcome addition. The joy of watching my new retriever jumping up and down, anticipating me throwing the tennis ball, was greater than the mundane task of scooping his poop, filling his water dish, and preparing his meals. Taking care of my gregarious golden has more than multiplied the meaning in my life. My appreciation and respect for animals has increased exponentially. He has given me insight into the formula for commitment and unconditional love, where he is the lowest common denominator. How he selects which bush or tree to lift his leg on is a mystery to me, just like those word problems I suffered through in algebra. I never liked mathematics, but Hank has changed my calculations. He is the best math teacher I have ever had. Thank you.
I am honored and delighted to be among so many beautiful people. And okay.
That belongs to everyone.
Thank you very much. And your applause makes up for that, makes up for all those nights that we forget that we had a dinner to go to and we just write and write and write. It makes up for all the holidays we missed and all the time we tell our children, later, close the door. And I have here, I made it into a poem to soften the words. It is my answer to Arizona's anti-immigrants that passed as a law 5-7 years ago, SB 1017. And to all the insults that our wonderful president throws at immigrants, and me, and all that are immigrants. Oops, and then your law. Immigrants! We are a voice that screams during the silence of conformity. We are a voice that screams revealing our talents, Contributions to progress, peace, innovation, solidarity. Like imagine a flower, an aphrodisiac, which is used with ideas. It's perfume wrapping you with ideas, in bright elixirs, swaying opinions with a smothering scent. We are a voice that screams, memories brought with our luggage from other lands, flower petals hidden between pages of a book, letters turned dried up in flakes of worn out paper, broken doll, childhood companion, prayer book with blessed stamps of guardian angel, wings spread out protecting little girls. We are a voice that screams, revealing our talents. Contributions to progress, peace, innovation, solidarity. We are a voice that screams. Thank you. And this is about a lady in my neighborhood that I loved very much. Coffee or tea? I miss you in a small, quiet ways. When I'm tasting a rich cup of coffee, doesn't work. Okay. And I look at the geraniums under the front porch, I find your smile. Amused at my efforts to grow anything. Floating among the red and white petals. You have to fertilize them, you know. They like lots of water, you said. We were drinking coffee. You were holding the orange cup with a green heart in the center. The one of the puppies falling all over themselves. I miss you in a small, quiet ways. When I'm tasting honey-colored orange lemon tea, and I think of the afternoon you came over after the operation. They had taken part of your intestines with a tumor. You were in a pensive mood, quietly weighing your words. You said, no coffee. Then you paused, surprised, silent, when your look fell upon the calla lilies on the dining room table, announcing their yellow orange. Pistiliums, heralding life, announcing spring. Holding your eyes on them, you said, ha, heck, I'll have coffee. Then you smiled, amused at yourself. I miss you in a small, quiet ways.
Hey, whenever we have a room full of poets, we have joy. It's been very joyful today. Epitaph. 'Cause we'll make it to a love supreme, palm trees and breeze. I'm dreaming of a love supreme, of love. John Coltrane. White supremacy. Am I really superior? How can that be? Thin-skinned, milky white, created in absence of love, sold on the black market, I crawled on bloodied knees through emotional obscurity to now. As I look about, I see every hue of upright human doings. Flesh tones run the gamut of albino white to darkest night. Happily housed souls, the family of humankind. Even color of eyes give little hint of what character of soul peers through. Each has sulked in poverty to increments of gilded wealth, kneeled down to many or knew God or no God, experienced joy and loss. Beside the necessary differences of male and female anatomy and amorphous others, spectrum of all remains the same. Have the same viscous fluids that maintain life on the inside loosen each moment when erupted to air flowing on the ground, circle the drain. Our emotions are all that separates souls, allow self-loathing, hatred of others to divide us. We cannot detect from sight that which makes that atom split, makes us destructive to one another. Superiority does not exist. In a world where all were created from stardust with misfit genes that only enhance our imperfections. Thank you.
I wanted to make sure that you all know that you are invited next Saturday to the Dancing Poetry Festival. It's in San Francisco at the Palace of the Legion of Honor, and if you wanted to come and get free tickets, you could email me and I would make sure that you got in. So, and it is a contest. If you win, there will be 3 grand prizes that they will dance. They'll choreograph a dance to your poem. The poem I want to read, I teach creative writing and I have a poetry club at a charter school in Alameda. It's a middle and high school. We have a high school poet laureate program. We do the poem of the week where we read a poem to the whole school every week. It's really fun. And this poem is to my students, and it's called Young Poets. They leave a trail of glitter wherever they go. If you look closely, it catches the light and glimmers in their footprints, hovers in the air as they speak, swirls about their feet as they walk, dances like fireflies as they laugh. These children bursting into adolescence, these fledgling poets, often seen as different, often pushed to the outside. They catch each other like fallen sparrows. They cradle, they comfort, they coax, they cajole, and watch one another spread their silky wings. That's when the glitter starts. Little by little, they let the world touch them, tickle them, tug them. They feel the world reach out, feel themselves reaching back. They see magic in the ordinary, look at life with the artist's eye. My young poets who dare to shimmer into the world with their mighty pens. In a world that can be dark and disappointing, where I sometimes taste despair, their glitter finds me and makes me proud to be human. They don't know how happy they make me.
So much is going on in the world, too much is going on in the world, and our children are crying, our children are dying, and but we have hope from what we saw them do yesterday. Let's give our children the world a break.
Yeah.
Mothers speaking about their sons. He was only 22 years old when he was killed by a Fruitvale BART station police officer in Oakland, California. In the early morning hours on January 1, 2009. Who was he to me? Who was he to me? He was my son, and I loved him dearly. I brought him into this world on February 27, 1986. What did I do about this? What did I do about this? I cried and almost died myself over knowing that my son's life had been so wrongfully taken. My family and I would have to fight a long battle for justice to be served, which still does not satisfy us. I am Wanda Johnson, the mother of Oscar Grant. My family and I work endlessly to stop other families from having to live this pain. We have established the Oscar Grant Foundation to benefit grieving families. Remember Oscar Grant, Ashe. Remember Oscar Grant, Ashe. He was 28 years old when he was murdered on January 3rd, 2018 by a Bay Area Rapid Transit BART officer. He was shot and killed at the West Oakland station in California. His back was turned and his hands were up and he was unarmed. He was shot in the back 3 times by the BART officer. Who was he to me? Who was he to me? He was my son, who I loved so deeply. I gave birth to him on May 14th, 1989. How did I feel about this? How did I feel about this? My heart ripped into pieces upon hearing the news. This was absolutely police brutality waged against my son. To this day, justice has not been served. My family and I are still fighting for justice. I am Yolanda Banks Reed, the mother of Aileen. My family and I are continuing to call for police accountability. We have established Mothers Fight Back to stop the killing of men and women. Remember Salim Tyndall, Ashe. Remember Salim Tyndall, Ashe. He was 21 years old when he was shot and killed in a robbery attempt on March 10, 2019 by 3 men who didn't value life. He was murdered not far from his college campus in Los Angeles, California. He had moved there from Oakland to complete his education and graduate with a degree as a musician. This was a senseless shooting that we will never, ever be able to comprehend. Who was he to me? Who was he to me? He was my son, who I loved through time and space. I brought him into this world on April 13, 1997. How did I respond to this news? How did I respond to this news? I grieved and continue to grieve in ways that no mother should ever, never have to do. My family and I now know the identity of my son's killer, who is now in jail. I am Lynette Gibson McElhaney, the mother of Victor McElhaney. Since his death, we continue to stand on a street corner with the Soldiers Against Violence Everywhere to memorialize the victims of violence and comfort grieving families. Remember Victor McElhaney, Ashe. Remember Victor McElhaney, Ashe.
Great to be here today. Thank you everyone for reminding me that poetry does heal. September. The days turn towards each other, then sigh and look away. Summer is flying off with the geese into a milky blue sky. We want to believe time will spiral into endless lifetimes. Eternity a circle we follow around mountains, trembling with joy, lakes rippling with infinite stars. A sun and moon who wrap seasons and tides around us. Our hands filled with dried tansy and nautilus shells. Mandalas of gold light everywhere we look. This breath of wonder, never the last breath. Inside out love. It takes courage to turn yourself inside out, to wear your gray muted side facing out and not feel embarrassed or apologize. No overblown pink roses blooming on your chest, no gold stripes running down your arms. Forget the dazzling polychromatic self you want them to admire. Instead, give that brightness to your shy, aloof soul, the one inside who sometimes feels colorless. Cover it with repeated images of magenta and turquoise birds, persimmon butterflies, and autumn paisley. It takes courage to show them your inside self, to let them discover your blurry side, the you that has no discernible pattern, your brand name faded beyond recognition, your inner self made of cloth that has been softened by tears. But note your seams are straight and true. Label yourself durable, lasting. Tell them with your loud, beating heart exposed that even this world, this frightened, desperate world we live in, can be turned inside out with love.
Okay, I'm going to try not to abuse my 3 minutes. Quick gloss, we were talking about trauma earlier in our panel and the role of the amygdala, in which it does mediate the fight or flight response, but that's not all it does. It also has a key role in moving your experiences into long-term storage as memories. With that said, this is Amygdalus persica, which is the taxonomical name for the peach. For you, sweet thing, only the orchard's great voluptuary, sugar as a heat mirage, the August sun dripping over the lip of the world, brazen, annealed. For you, love, nothing but the incarnation of hedonistic languor, sun-hot flesh so ripe it barely holds itself together, a radiant acidity arrayed around a corrugated shell enclosing something like an almond. What can I tell you, darling? Nothing changes. Break its skin and you will always have the same swift hit to the amygdala. Each molecule of scent is, for you, my own, a recapitulation of an original experience that grows association like a root. Time only deepens. And was anything ever more glorious than this expression of long-term potentiation, of something that comes back and each time bigger, more potent, all the gaudy rush of nectar down your throat, the honeyed light, and all of it only for you, sweetheart, and for no other reason than to show how pleasure, too, can concentrate with time. There is the blonde down on her forearm. There is the drunken, swooning heat that grew between your voices every time you thought about the last time or the next. There is the way that every word branched and seemed to set its own fruit, an abundance that could break itself. It's all exquisitely preserved, the way that staggering lushness consumed you even as it was consumed. The peach tree has a message for you, dear, and it's this. Your memories, your gut reactions, your addictions, your conditioned fears and pleasures, the ability to be transported by a hint of perfume, these things are forever love. They are immortal, even if you were not. How elegant design is that it does this. You're reduced to nothing finally, but all of the work it took to bring you there stays put. And there's a thing deep in the limbic brain that says so, wordlessly collating what you feel so you can learn from it, and it is shaped just like the kernel of peach. For you then, love, the fruit of complicated generosities, of things perfected by anticipation, by recollection, fruit of infinite seduction, fruit of liquid flame, fruit of the velvet glove and the sucker punch. Fruit of, oh God, oh yes, of pheromones, of heat, of incipient bruises, of overdoing it, of being unable to even want to stop. Thank you.
want to thank you all for coming, and this is just really great. Speaking with all of these poet laureates, it's just really wonderful for us all to meet and get together, and I hope we do stay in touch. So, let's see. I've got 2 poems, but they're short. The first one I wrote for CORA, which is an organization in San Mateo County that stands for Community Overcoming Relationship Abuse. And this poem is titled Mama Cora. You know I didn't bring you into this world to be mistreated and abused. Don't let me hear someone made you feel worthless and ashamed. Don't let me hear somebody is trying to dim your light. Don't let me hear someone has left bruises where no one can see. But if I do hear, and later you see me cry, believe they are proud tears, because you were brave to say, I knew if I told you, you'd do something. Very nice. This one is called Of All Places on Earth. Of all places on earth, I found you in my own backyard. Sometimes you're smooth and strong like driftwood. You can be quiet, gentle, and tranquil. Other times you flicker between a whisper and a roar, alluding to a secret inner explosion. I savor every moment with you. Nothing smells like you, even if I turn sideways. Nothing excites me like the anticipation of catching a glimpse of you. The aqua blue road sign beckons, next 9 exits. It's time. I'm positive. My journey ends here. Pacifica.
This poem is typical of an example of the kinds of things poet laureates are asked to write. And this one celebrated the grand reopening of Dublin's Shannon Community Center in February of 2009. However, the themes of nature and diversity seem to apply even more now. Shannon revisited. The original 4 square miles and spirit of Dublin has stretched in all directions now, touching neighbors in San Ramon, Pleasanton, and Livermore. We are one city among cities. When we circle around the center of Dublin, from Old St. Raymond's and 3 historical landmarks nearby, weaving our way through neighborhoods and across from another St. Raymond's, we find a new center. In the season when cold claims us cell by cell, the morning mists have cleared, exposing a long-forgotten fairy ring freed from a past gazebo. The circle opens to admit us, allowing us to rebuild, repurpose, and refocus on community. Welcome and mingle with the spirits. As we join in the fairy ring, we have received an invitation to the dance. It's our time to dance and sing. We are one spirit among spirits. Sing the praise of permits, of math, of construction, praise of plumbers, painters, architects, and artisans, of electricians, designers, and landscapers. We celebrate their craft today. In our world, alphabet blocks come to life and tumble off the preschool tower wall. Community soup for the soul simmers in the grand kitchen, in the offices and classrooms. Windows to our world of green hills, Donlin Point, and Mount Diablo. Recalling we are but one recent species. Residing in Dublin's former watery marshes, we walk between the worlds of fossils and fish, wildflowers and oaks, growing our strengths and myths. We are one species among species. We stand together as one community, stabilizing past into future, embodied in the grand old oak tree. Mirrored in the art panel, hiding our cosmic center deep in the grooves of the sacred tree. Whenever you come here, in the freezing fog or searing sun, past the fountain where the blue and white swans meet in their yin-yang embrace, and cross the bridge under the giant oak to celebrate a birthday, wedding, or just to be. Give thanks to the spirits who join you with glee. Cross the threshold to other worlds and know that we are one.
I'm inspired by the fact, hi Amos, I'm inspired by the fact that today is International Peace Day, as well as the climate strike yesterday, and the fact that we're going to Saudi Arabia and sending our troops there to protect oil rigs. That's why I chose this poem, Affirmations of a Dream. I still believe that humanity is inherently loving, that love is what governs the soul, that the soul is the compass pointing towards the heart, that heart beats steady towards a dream, that dream will be realized by our unity, that these actions of unity will bring forth a time of peace. For we simply cannot continue the paths of greed that only breed suffering and turmoil, wars over gold and for oil. We must cease to robotically pursue these ancient visions of division, set by long dead eyes left blinded by hatred, planted in minds soured by frustration. Yet the clown emperor, he is naked, behind old flags still waving, with old beliefs oft left unshaken. For here we stand, pledging allegiance to a nation built on idealistic foundations, but left cracked by the weight of hypocrisy. A nation built on the backs of the invisible, whose voices were long silenced, and who now cry out with wisdom against the tyranny of a flawed system. No, we can no longer ignore that for which we have waited, that for which we are fated. On this day we must awaken, for history is ours for the making. But we must rise to take it, for the hour is growing later, and clocks are meant to move forward. And freedom is not easily forgotten once tasted. We are the majority. We're the ones who care. We haven't the time for despair. Nay, with every passing second, we must affirm our hope. In hardship or opportunity, from the country to the city, our unity must build up community. Empowered by kindness, leaping in faith or faithless, we shall fight until all are free, moving through all tragedy, all together, you and me, until that dream is reached, an eternal guarantee that every earthly soul is assured a life of dignity simply by its existence. Thank you very much.
Sorry, I apologize. I'm going to be reading a poem from my phone, which I didn't have time to print it. I wrote it last week, but as many of you might know, India is going through a lot of turmoil right now, especially in the state of Kashmir, which used to have special status, and now the Indian government decided it wants to integrate the state, and they've done it by force. They've cut off the internet, all communication lines, and the army was sent in, and it was very disturbing to me. And I have friends there who I've not heard from because they have no means to communicate. So the poem I'm sharing is written in a ghazal form, and I don't know how, I'm sure many of you are familiar with it. And so it's a Persian and Indian form which is used in song and in poetry, and it consists of couplets, and you'll notice there's like a repetitive rhythm and phrase that's used at the end of it. So this is called Ghazal Under Siege. After the Kashmir lockdown by the Indian government, August 2019. Like a thief, I'll sneak up from behind tonight, steal all your couplets and other words tonight. In that post office without a country, all your letters remain unread tonight. And under skies etched with barbed wire, so silver, the stars wear crowns with thorns tonight. Make a wish on the lash of a valley, hope treading flesh like a rubber pellet tonight. No news is good news, they say. Mouths stuffed with apples they cannot harvest tonight. Prayers soft as cashmere float untethered on a lake full of boats that are moored tonight. The living, so silent, they're feared dead. Even though they're at home, they're not home tonight. O poet, make haste with your pen. Sing a song for the voiceless with this poem tonight.
I've had a wonderful day today at this gathering. It's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed meeting all of you, and I hope to see you again real soon. I hope that we continue this tradition of meeting here or somewhere else for a Poet Laureate gathering. It's a wonderful thing, and I will do exactly what I said I will do. I will put together a Poet Laureate program that we all can live with, and I welcome your input. Thank you.
Tempest Dawn. Lightning flew like fireworks as thunder shook the windows violently. Nature's attack was enough to raise the dead, but I did not hear the alarm's shrill sound. Morning revealed neighbors competing for the freeway, disguising their rage by peeling on asphalt. They rushed off to unfulfilling jobs and ill-mannered bosses. It seemed like the whole world was on edge. As I showered, water seared my bottom like a hot iron. The pot boiled with strong coffee that singed my lips. The toaster burned my last piece of bread. I wolfed down charred remains as I headed for the door. Then the car refused to start after several attempts. It was as if all the machines were angry, somewhat rebellious. Perhaps they also had had enough, wanted a rest from performing their duties once more. I was just a cog in the wheel, a committed fool with her nose to the grind, another member of the rat race. Now I'm quietly sitting at my desk, applying makeup with deliberate strokes, ignoring the phone and the computer screen, blind to the prison of partitions that surround me. Butterfly dreams, and this is my last one. In my dreams, I am a butterfly, spreading my freedom wings, perched above the world, above the madness, on the flower of my destiny, bold with shimmering colors that playfully romp in the sun, like those psychedelic days of tie-dyed shirts and ripped jeans, when I dared to slay the dragon of hate in front of me, when I cared enough to frolic in sun-stroked meadows, taste the fruit of my youth, don the courage to preach wisdom, and curse hypocrisy with a smile on my face.
Sorry. I can't do without these anymore. Okay, now I can't see you. Anyway. That's what I'm doing all the time as Poet Laureate. Sometimes as Poet Laureate, I'm going to have to take these off for a second, we have to write poems about things that we ordinarily would not write poems about. So in my case, every spring, the art students at one of the local high schools do a mural for a bus shelter. And last spring, their chosen topic was a Candyland theme. So the art commissioners, sent me the picture, and they were kind of like, "I'm sorry." And so all spring, I was bitching about how I needed to write a poem about Candyland, and then time was getting short, so I got over myself. And anyway, I ended up writing a poem that actually kind of pleased me. So anyway, I'm going to read that for you. The bus people, they didn't want to call it the Candyland, thing, so they dubbed it the Sweet Stop, and so I named the poem The Sweet Life. Sweets are plentiful if we know where to look. A terrier's energetic greeting, a hard-won achievement, a toddler's sticky grin. And yet, there are times when we forget, when everything is a struggle and life a constant stream of obstacles, redundant paperwork, robocalls, and bad breakups. Weeks when nothing fits or works or goes according to plan. Days when we want to give up or give in. When food tastes bland and even a best friend bores you. It's tempting to think, wouldn't life be wonderful if it were more like Candyland? If we could drive past peppermint signposts and pluck cotton candy from the clouds. If roads were marked with gumdrops and hills covered in never-melting ice cream. If the Milky Way were made of Hershey's kisses that fell like shooting stars, wouldn't life be sweeter? I suspect we'd outgrow it as a toddler abandons a once favorite game. Because we forget that that sweet is only sweet when constrained with the bitter, when contrasted with the bitter. We need life's struggles and sorrows, its boring, sour moments, to remind us to give thanks for everything that is beautiful, fun, delicious, and yes, just plain sweet. When we are overwhelmed by change and life comes at us like a bullet train, stop, take a break, and remember that without these bad times we would never learn and grow. Today the world may seem a slow slog across a featureless plain of blah, but the sweet life waits just around the corner, if only we know where to look.
So thank you to the sponsors and organizers. As a poet laureate, we are called to be mentors and advocates for poetry in our communities, but I wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all of the poets and writers in this room who we cannot see who have mentored us. And among those, for me, who do happen to be in this room are Lisa Rosenberg and Caroline Goodwin and Kalamu Chache, who have mentored me in my role. So I wanted to read a poem about mentor writers. And someone for me who has been inspiring is Toni Morrison, who, as many of you know, died last month. And she actually wrote 5 poems, even though she's known mostly for her novels. So this poem is called After Chloe Anthony Wofford, and the title of the poem came from Toni Morrison, whose real name is, or given name was Chloe Anthony Wofford. And she said of her name, I am really Chloe Anthony Wofford. That's who I am. I have been writing under this other person's name. I write some things now as Chloe Wofford, private things. I am not earthworthy. Look how the ants mistake my heels for hills. Before this body, I expanded, emitted light. I shouldn't be riding a drowning planet, coverable by a spaceman's thumb. Let me be moon-eyed, cloud-cheeked, dust and crackling gas, spiraling into silver dreads. Give me the spheres, the cosmic jazz licks to trick this tiny death from its taking. Let me go out exploding private matter, birthing again blue giants, light years ahead of observable. That's who I am. I am not earthworthy. Look how the stars take my skin for sky. Thank you.
I have a true story to tell, which I'm not known for. I was hurting very badly this morning, and I mean, really badly. And you've all healed me. I actually feel clear and clean. I want to thank all of you. Yeah, it's the best experience in a party I've ever had. Somebody called me a surrealist poet. I wasn't sure what that was, but I considered myself lucky to get nominated to my current position. 2 very short poem songs dedicated to Peace Day. Thank you, Dale. If once I were the fool, if once I were the fool, I would gain all the knowledge that you truly love me too. Oh, and that you, oh, would always be with me. If once I were at all, oh, crocus, tulip on the nose, knows this, that, too. Let life to be life too, the winter hay, no, the day, this day, bloom, oh tulip, oh too, did you too?
This has been such an inspiring day, and I just want to thank you all. I'm going to read a poem which I wrote for the Asian Art Museum for a mural that was in between the museum and the San Francisco Public Library. Flower instructions. 1. Blanket streets with plum blossoms. Rest body against warm concrete. Find rose petals on sidewalk. Glimmer of the memory garden. 2. Follow the trail of invisible bees. Nectar guides for the lost ones. Fling lasso into summer darkness. Hear whistles and megaphone. 3. Hold body close to body. Breathe in the greenhouse. Wear wet glitter and silver hose. Lick salt on skin. 4. Catch whispers in libraries. Greet strangers with acorns and grapefruit. Remember eyes, ghosts, smoke. Watch brothers as they disappear. 4. Imagine a new world. Keep sisters close. Thank you.
Hi everyone, thank you for being here today. This has been, like everyone's saying, a really joyful experience. I'm going to be reading a poem I wrote after the 2017 wildfires that happened in my county while I was Poet Laureate. I did some research on the path of one of the major fires called the Tubbs Fire, which took out part of Santa Rosa. And it had happened there several times before, the same path of the same fire, a different fire. This is called Ground Truthing After the Great Fires. When our bodies were still fogged with desire, we'd park in the dark on the barren gold hills and look out at the jeweled city below us. We were too young to remember the fires that swept the hillside clean of oak and scrub. Now rattlers slept under weathered rocks, and barn owls the size of toddlers sat like prophets in the remains of trees. But we couldn't see them. Our cars were fogged with breath. When the years drifted on and we left for college and the hillside was sold, leveled, and built up, houses rose like ghosts on the ridge. We weren't the only ones who hadn't seen the remains of the last fires. We who returned woke from our middle-aged lives to choke of smoke, skies pulsing crimson, ash like heavy rain drifting down, the moon like a red eye, the news looping the same story, fire that won't stop, the whole hillside where we'd once parked, pressed our bodies against each other, burned by a fire so hungry it became a wall that jumped the freeway to find more to burn. On that windy night, we were all of the same body. The city we had once looked out across was in us. Forgotten the Great Fire of 1870, forgotten the Hanley Fire of 1964, soon to be forgotten the Tubbs Fire of 2017. Even though the land tells us that all three fires devoured the same path. Now when the young red-tailed hawks scream across the air above our homes, when the barn owls roost on the eaves of trees and the crows shuffle in the oaks, we know it is warning or plea. Fire will pour its velvet tongue across your valley again and again, even if you don't remember. Thank you.
Great day. Thanks everyone so much for being here. One of the fun things about being county poet laureate was just learning about the county, which I still have a lot to learn. San Mateo County is an unbelievable place, and just the geography is amazing. And it's true, I mentioned this morning, but this is a true story that that they were going to develop the top of San Bruno Mountain, and a bunch of women activists they did a lot of different types of protests. One of them was they brought goats to city council meetings. And another one was they made a big cake in the shape of San Bruno Mountain and publicly cut off the top and offered it to the developers. Here you go. So, and you know, protesting is still so important, and it gives me so much hope to see what happened yesterday. And so this is a poem I wrote for San Bruno Mountain, just learning about the history of that place, and that there's a little colony of endangered butterflies that lives there and has another colony in Twin Peaks in San Francisco called the Mission Blue Butterfly. And so this is a poem about those and they have a very specific place where they need like this particular plant. It is a stone crop in order to reproduce. Mission Blue for San Bruno Mountain. I go up before sunrise, before the light finds the promenade and salt flats and marina, the baylands and lagoon alive with willows and goldeneye, before the door opens in the east and the night shift clocks out, and the parents and the older brothers and sisters come home to the younger ones to wake them and prepare the first meal of the day. My own mind opening into the familiar, into the old grief blue as a glacier, I go up. And when light reaches clear water at the center of every lupin, when blue wings come like a blessing to cover my eyes, there is my grandfather leaving the garden, offering bright lettuce and the formula for a good crop. One starfish under every potato, and a layer of herring eggs in March. Hand over his heart, hand placing the last rose, the sun opening over the bay, into the stone crop, into the blue wings we all hold on to there. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. This has been such an inspiring day. All the intense work and beautiful poems that you've all shared. And following Iris, inevitably, I followed her in time as the current poet laureate. A good example to follow, I must say. And my poem too follows suit. It's another fire poem, but this one is a dedication to, in some ways, all of you who have been giving me so much feedback about the fire film I shared earlier, and also to 285 scientists I've been lucky enough to know, even if some of us were just emailing each other, who are so wise about wildfire and who understand that really the fires that come close to homes are a very different beast than the fires out in the undisturbed wild. And therefore, I'm going to share with you this one poem called Blue Oak. A meadow ends where all the perpendiculars of a leafy brown river throw themselves up toward blue. The fruits are olive and ochre. Sprays of dark leaves shiver and splash with sun. Lightning scars show where the main, once shaped by flames, was not lost, but reduced to fine fists, oak tissue under sheets of earth, sleeping through the storm and teeth of lightning. Here it is, the world utterly lovely, despite the anguish, despite endless battles. Meanwhile, you have slipped away to yours. My phone is still again. I could call back. I could babble about the testimony to resilience, bent limbs, and great elbows of trunk leaning against granite in gestures of pondering and reconciliation. I could share the looping and fluttering of flycatchers, grasses fresh with fog drip and shade, pressed flat where fox recently turned dog-like circles round and round before settling in. I could hold up my phone among the workings of xylem and phloem, so you could hear it, this rustling, this liquid flow, scooping minutes out of the heart's rocky, sloping terrain, and flowing on as only a river can. Or I could stand still and listen. Thank you.
Thank you, Mom. Since we are here mentoring each other and supporting each other and talking about our poetic ancestors and mentors, I'm going to read a poem that is not the one that I intended to read, but it's a poem that was inspired by someone who is my mentor without even knowing it. Ted Kuzer, a poet I learned a great deal from. And this poem came about because I realized how often I might want to, when I'm really shattered or just completely transformed, through a poem. And this happens to us, and how wonderful would it be if we could share that with the poet, who may have been dead for centuries, or live on the other side of the world or something, but it comes from that desire to share. And it's called To the Makers. The Greek word for poet is maker. To the makers. I want to tell them, all of them, the living and the dead, not about gratitude. I want them to know, to tell them that it happens, years or ages after their labors. It happens with their work in my hand, on a bowed page, at or near the end of a phrase. A fissure opens onto the deep lake of their making, its slate skin and forested rim, tools strewn on the silky bottom, wavering shapes, soft with life along grooves and shanks. Through this water, through murk and sunshaft and clear shoals, the pressure building or falling off, they dove and rose time and again, hauling, gleaning, and leaving the lake to make a portal from words.
250 years ago, San Francisco Bay was seen for the first time by Europeans who somehow ended up in Pacifica in San Mateo County. The expedition would not have survived without the help of the natives who had been thriving in the region for 10,000 years. This poem commemorates and honors the Ohlone, first people of San Mateo County. Poetry, please. And when we speak, let it be said that nothing is lost in translation, that our words are true and tenable, that we understand the meaning of sea, the Ohlone word for water, which is you. The Ohlone knew this. They were first of this county, born of sea water and woven weeds, salt marshes and pickle weeds, and salt water silvered by smelt. They fared on abalone and blue elderberry, western choke cherry, periwinkle, oaks, all flourishing, grace-filled, transitory. If I were a weaver, I would gift you a basket made of sandbar, willow, and tule, bright as cinnabar. But I can only write this poem, a tributary, to carry the weight of water as it flows and hefts the meaning of you, giver and taker, and everything that I knew.